Hello, so this is a little video on these basic scan tools where we're going to be talking about what they can do, what they can't do, and basically just sort of having a bit of a review of showing you how they work, and at the end sort of hopefully just sort of giving a bit of an opinion on whether they're worth having or not. So perhaps it's going to be easier if we just start by talking about what these tools can't do. First of all, these sort of tools, these generic, basic, cheap OBD, OBD2, OBDE tools, they generally just do the engine computer, communication with the engine computer module. So they won't do things like your airbags, your ABS, things like that. So if you may be watching this video because you've got an airbag light on or an ABS light on, these sorts of tools don't do those modules. These only do like the engine control modules, you know, ECM, ECU, engine computer, whatever, PCM, whatever you want to call it. They generally only communicate with that module. So first of all, I'm going to start talking about this one. This one this is one of those ones where you plug this obviously into the diagnostic port of the car, and then you use an app on your phone or tablet, and then connect to it via Bluetooth. This one I've had a few years now, and I've tried using it quite a few times, and generally speaking I've been very disappointed with it. More often than not, it's not connected properly. And what the last time I tried using it, actually, when I plugged it into the car's diagnostic port, the ABS light just started flashing by itself, which, you know, it shouldn't do, and it reset the engine management light all by itself. This all happened before I even connected to it, but via Bluetooth. So after that, I was so worried basically that it was going to damage the computer or something. Luckily it hadn't in that case, but since then I haven't even used it. So I'm just showing you this in this video just to say that this one's very poor. So next I'm briefly just going to talk about this one here. This uses the same principle as this one, in the sense that it connects to your phone and tablets wirelessly, and then you download an app to your phone or tablet to connect and use it with. The difference is this one uses Bluetooth, this one uses Wi-Fi. So it doesn't have issues sort of using it with the iPhone like a lot of Bluetooth stuff does. And I've been using it with a app that I downloaded onto my iPhone called Car Scanner. So at the moment I've only used it a couple of times, but once I've used it a few more times I'm going to come back and do a more detailed review. But at the moment I'm fairly pleased with this one. It seems to be working okay. So now we're just going to go on to talk about this one in a bit more detail. So I'll just get this one plugged in and come back. So I'm plugged in now into the car's diagnostic port down there, as you can see. And nice thing about this one is it doesn't need it doesn't need any batteries or anything like that. It just powers itself up from getting the power from the data connection. Just two buttons on it. You have to have the car's ignition on. Two buttons. Just press enter. You have to wait for it to go through this process to actually sort of like start communicating with the car. Reading the codes and the data now. And as you can see, it says DTC0. So DTC stands for diagnostic trouble code. So it's showing 0, which means that there's no trouble codes, which is correct for this car. And that's its main feature really. And then if you use scroll, you can get to erase, and obviously that's, you know, as you might guess, that just allows you to erase any trouble codes if there was any. And then you have this IM Readiness Menu, which is basically to do with your emissions testing, I believe. I think that it applies more to the US, not the UK. And then you can, like, on some cars you can look up the VIN number. I'm not sure if it's going to work on this. Let's try it. No support. Okay, it doesn't. And then you can rescan, and then it goes back to the DTC. So it's a nice simple tool basically. Okay, so now we've got the second one plugged in, the D900. So once again, let's switch on the ignition. Powered up. you have to wait whilst it goes through the process of powering up. Then on this one you have to select the manufacturer. I'm in a 2005 1.6 Toyota Corolla, so Toyota we need to select like that, and new scan. So as you can see, the difference on this one is you got more functionality. You've got the read DTCs as with the other one, erase DTCs, but the extra functionality you've got on this one is things like the live data and the freeze frame. So if we talk about the live data first, if I enter that. Now on this live data setting, you can see all sorts of information which the fuel computer uses from all the sensors on the engine to calculate timing, fueling, all that sort of stuff. Now if I start up the engine, if I start up the engine, you can see there fuel system CL, that means it's just gone into closed loop. You've got things like calculated load, coolant temperature there, 71 degrees C. You've got your short and long-term fuel trims. You've got the RPM. As you can see, it is a little bit slow to update. As you can see, when I first moved down onto the RPM, it was showing a different RPM, so it does take a little bit of time to update, depending on which position it's in. Vehicle speed, we're not moving. Things like spark advance. IAT is intake air temperature, 25 degrees C. That's your MAF, currently showing 3.44 grams per second. Now the reason this live data is useful is because, let's say for example, if we take the MAF as an example, the mass airflow sensor. Now that will set a trouble code and put the engine management light on if the circuit to the MAF or the MAF itself is either open or shorted, or if the MAF sensor readings are out of a certain range, then it will trip up a fault code and put your engine light on. But what if, say for example, the MAF sensor is not shorted, it's not open, and the value is showing is within the range but just not the correct value? Let's say it's stuck on a value that's within the correct range, but it's not actually going up and down as it should be. Now that's not going to set your engine management light. It's not going to be stored as a trouble code. But if you've got something like this where you can look at the live data, you can scroll through, if you suspect your MAF for whatever reason, you can scroll through, or just do it with all components, show that they're actually showing correct readings that are actually going up and down. So for example, as you can see, this MAF reading at the moment is the engine's like just sort of on a slightly fast idle, and it's showing about just under 2 grams per second. If I rev it up a little bit to say about 3,000 revs, you can see that MAF reading has gone up, and if I come off the accelerator, it's gone back down. So that can be if I was doing those tests and that MAF reading was always the same, not changing, then you've got some issue with your MAF, probably a dodgy MAF, and it needs replacing. So that can be very helpful for doing diagnostics like that. So that's definitely a helpful thing on this. And then if we go back, the other thing is freeze frame data is really good, because let's say when it has set a diagnostic trouble code, if your engine management light is on, then this will actually store all the conditions, like all that data we were looking at previously. It will store what all that data was when that trouble code was set. So again, that can be very useful. So we'll stop there for a moment. So to summarize, are these tools any good? Are they worth having? Obviously this one I've already spoken about, absolutely not, so let's just put this one away. This one, like I said, is pretty good, seems pretty good so far. I'm going to sort of use it a bit more and come back and do a more detailed review on this, and maybe like talk about the different apps you can use it with and which of those is better and which of those is not so good. But so far I would say yes, this one seems to be worth having. As far as these two are concerned, I mean, I don't even know if they make these exact ones anymore, because I've had both of these for quite a few years. But in principle, I'm guessing sort of what I've talked about here and what I'm going to say next probably would apply to like the current versions of these things as well. And I've already talked about at the beginning about what they can't do, in the sense that they can't do airbag and ABS modules, things like that. They also can't do what's known as bi-directional functionality, which is where you can control sort of like certain actuators modules from the scan tool. But of course, don't forget for that kind of functionality, for those professional scan tools like the snap-on stuff, that kind of thing, you need to be spending like several hundreds, ranging through to several thousands of pounds. That is very, very expensive kit. For the price, I would say these are okay. The thing that I found most frustrating about these two is that even when you're using them with a car that they're supposed to be compatible with, sometimes they don't connect for some reason, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes on certain cars that I've tried these two on, sometimes they both connected and worked and given me some useful information. Sometimes neither of them have connected and worked, and sometimes one's connected and worked and the other hasn't, and then on the next car it might be vice versa. So they're a bit sort of unreliable in that sense, if you like. But having said all that, as I said, the professional stuff costs so much, and these are relatively so much, next to no money really. I mean, this one I paid about £15 for. This one I paid about £30 for. For that very small amount of money. Right, sorry about that. The battery ran out there, so we're just sort of here at my desk now. I was saying on those basic cheap tools despite their problems, for the small amount of money they are, I personally think they're well worth having. So just finally, just one thing I'm just going to mention is this tool called the Blue Driver. Now, I have not used this tool, and as you can see, it's quite a bit more expensive than the really cheap basic ones that we've just been talking about. But that said, this is still a lot cheaper than the sort of proper professional stuff. And from what I understand, this one does actually have some functionality in relation to airbag modules and ABS modules, but I believe that only applies to US models, not European. So I'm possibly thinking of buying this one and sort of checking it out and seeing what it's like, seeing how well it works here in the UK, and maybe doing another video on it. But I just want to say, if anybody has actually used this in the UK, if they could please comment, let us know what it's like. Is it any good? How good is the coverage for like the airbag and the ABS models for European models? That would be great. So anyway, hope that's helpful. Bye bye.